Right, let's get moving. Back to the main temple to hear from you, Moss, where we're going next. But, well, of course, first we gotta actually put this energy into the previous temple. As a bit of a side note, I was going through Metroid Prime 1 for the hell of it while continuing to work on the commentary for this game, and noticed they referenced the planet Aether there. It was a minor mention, but still, I suppose they were to some degree planning the sequel when they started the first game. I wonder how many revisions, rewrites, and edits they went through before they decided on this particular world and the story behind it. Sure, I think they could have put more thought into it, but it's not like I think this was an entirely thoughtless process. I just feel like the poor game can't stand on its own, and the gameplay-wise, it just felt like an extension of the first Metroid Prime, and story-wise, it just feels like a very long prologue to Metroid Prime 3. Right, so the only thing going through that portal was good for was a missile expansion, better than nothing, but excuse me for expecting to find more than that when we went through an annoying to get to portal. Then quite a few minor upgrades in this franchise end up being in much more annoying to reach spots, some of which I never actually get to grab. Well, this area looks new enough to slow things down for a bit. Granted, we really need to do the backtracking in order to make the next bit of major progress, but we may as well see if whatever's behind that purple door is something worthwhile. Who knows? It might be a major upgrade that we'd have to go this way to reach not long after entering the next area anyway. Of course, it's equally likely that I'm just wasting my time and the next major upgrade is in the next major area that will unlock the moment we speak to the only character who speaks to us in this game. Or at least the only living character that speaks to us. I don't feel the holographic ghosts count. Okay, so not a major upgrade, but still something we've never grabbed before. Still, it was kind of worth slowing things down a bit, but I guess it's back to fast-forwarding now. Yeah, there's nothing else in here for us to grab or open. Back on track to the light version of this region's temple, then. And then we go to the main temple. It's possible I'm gonna have to throw in at least part of the footage from the next bit of raw stuff that I've got, just to give this clip a bit more meat to it. But I haven't made that decision just yet, because I don't know if that'll break the half-hour mark. I suppose I'll make it later. Right, and now I'm stalling for time by talking about part of my editing process again. I really need to find more subjects to talk about around here. Yeah, definitely would have been embarrassing to get burned by that poison on the way up. Not that pausing to clear the way is keeping our health up when the air itself is a kind of poison. A slower working poison, but still. Part of me is tempted to just go through the portal now. The other just wants to fight against the possessed pirates here for the sake of it. Again, the lore outright states that there's a war going on. And I just don't feel like this game pulls off a war. Especially considering the sheer number of war games we've gone through where the hero is completely isolated from any kind of support. I suppose the new visor lets us take care of those guys with less trouble than usual, but I'm pretty sure they outright teleported and various other rule-breaking things before we gained the visor. They just decided to work on a more reasonable constraints now that we have the visor that we're supposed to use when fighting them. At the very least, they feel like a more bullshit version of the Chozo ghosts from the previous game, as opposed to the stealth pirates from the same game. Anyway, sorry for fumbling around with the map again. I really should know what direction to go to reach the temple, since we just came from there in the dark version of the world. It's not like that aspect of the terrain has changed between light and dark Aether. Once again, we're dancing around this bloody plant thing on the wall. It's probably more my fault than the game's that I'm feeling pretty sick of something that minor, especially when I can just swing by at least one of them. Okay, so now we can carry double the ammo. We are getting double the ammo drops from these things. Thank you for making it all feel so much more arbitrary for us. Right. I'm tempted to just not bother slowing things down when we get the energy back into the world, but I suppose it is supposed to be a major event in this game, so regardless of how I feel about it, we may as well give it the gravity that it deserves, especially since we've only done one of these before, and there's only one more temple to go before we have to start unlocking the final area of the game. Once again, I'm not really seeing anything to imply that we've made the light version of Aether a genuinely better place by doing this. Ugh. Okay, apparently I spoke a bit too soon that time. I suppose being able to see some sunlight is a bit of an improvement, though I'm not sure that's the best thing to do for a bog. Not that swamps need to have rain all the time, just that by definition, those have to be pretty wet or the ecosystem is going to have some trouble. And the Luminoth are kind of our space elves for this story. We kind of wanted to give the Chozo a break after all the other games they've been a major contributor to. So, Right. Go ahead and bow, despite the fact that a hologram shouldn't have enough awareness of its surroundings to react to something like this. The poor bastard who made that hologram with his dying breath would probably be a lot more concerned with saying his last words than programming in the quick bow in the event the energy was returned to the temple. And again, probably not supposed to think about that sort of thing. But then we're in a bit of a quiet moment in the game at the moment. There's no real companion with us other than our own thoughts. Though I suppose even in the louder moments in the franchise, that's typically the case anyway. The only parts of the franchise I can think of where you play as Samus and aren't entirely alone are Metroid Prime 3, which we haven't reached yet, and Metroid Other M, which is notoriously bad in its writing, and I still haven't figured out how to record it. Again, I really wish I could feel legitimately threatened by the Ing, especially since we're 2/3 done dealing with the temples, and they've got to be feeling pretty frustrated at this point. It's not like they know how much I struggled against the Boost Guardian. All they know for sure is that every line of defense they've thrown in our way has been getting overcome, and that they've been far too passive, for far too many story beats, for this to feel in any way like a war. Okay, definitely wasn't expecting to find something we hadn't already scanned down here before. Well, may as well save since we don't want to go through that minor task in the traveling from point to point again. I suppose the missile expansions were also worth remembering. Still, we've got more backtracking to do, and the sooner we get through the somewhat dull bit of learning what Umos has to say now that we're gonna go to the third and final temple of the game, the sooner we can actually get this Ed Temple. Still kinda wish I knew just how far away the Spider Ball boss is gonna be. I know it's gonna be a massive pain in the ass, and that notably, the Wii version weakened that boss the same as it did the Speed Boost Guardian. Even if I manage to have the patience to go through the Speed Boss clean, there is no way I'm gonna not use the cheat codes to get through the next very annoying bastard in our path. Well, I don't think a pirate has ever showed up here before. Not that it's all that much of an obstacle, considering all the other pirates we've killed so far in this game. Seriously, guys, I'd have thought you'd know by now that Samus has become pretty capable this far into this adventure. After all, there's no way we would have been able to get this far without taking down all the Guardians and the temple bosses so far. So, how the hell is a single frickin' pirate gonna do anything to us? Despite the three-dimensional nature of the Metroid Prime games, it kinda feels in some ways more linear than some of the two-dimensional Metroids. At the very least, it's harder for me to imagine there are ways to sequence break the various parts of this game. Hell, while there are a very healthy number of people who do speedruns for the 2D Metroid games, I don't think there's too much of a community for that for the 3D ones because they're so damn long. Right, that's 2 beams going to the central thing. At least the second one did a better job than the first, showing things are actually starting to improve a bit for the planet, even if rain in a bog doesn't seem all that out of place to me. Well, knowledge and more major upgrades, I'm sure somewhere there is a suit that will let us travel through Dark Aether without the air burning us down bit by bit. Right. Of course the Ing are able to possess your robots the same as organic life. Hell, does anyone's robots in this universe have any means of avoiding getting taken over by a hostile force? Hell, I still won't forgive that Chozo Digger back in the 3DS game. As a side note, I was somehow expecting him to give us something to translate a new type of door or something. Apparently no. There's absolutely nothing he had to do in order to give us access to the next major area. We could have gone there without ever coming back here. Okay, and now I can't help thinking we should just grab a few things in that central temple area before going to the new one for the sake of it. It's not like we're on a timer or something in this game after all. We can take all the time we need to get the job done. I just wish I felt more invested in the job, instead of feeling it's essentially an obligation we have to do before we get to Metroid Prime 3. You mean to tell me I never scanned that after we brought it down? Dear God, how many hours ago was that, anyway? Hell, how many hours ago were we dealing with the non-possessed versions of those bugs? I'm pretty sure that back then I was loving the atmosphere of the game. Everything just felt so much more promising at the start than when we just goddamn started dealing with the temples. Ugh. Right. So this poor bastard was outright possessed, but still fighting it when this entry was logged. I'm sure that required a good amount of willpower to do, but, well, it's not like I can say for sure how much, since willpower is not exactly something that can be measured. And also the fact that I don't think the Ing have ever bothered to try possessing Samus. The X certainly tried to possess her back in Fusion. That's how she ended up crashing her ship in that game, and what convinced the Federation to put Metroid DNA in her. Oh wait, that's right. The Metroid Prime games all take place between Metroid 1 and 2, hence why there are so many Metroids on Talon 4 in the last game. Here's hoping that Metroid Prime 4 is a little bit after that period. Right, so apparently we don't have any actual means through this way at the moment. I really would have appreciated a warning about that back on the map. Ah well, I guess we'll be investigating what's on the other side of that nearby portal before we go to the next major area. Hell, we might not even get to the next major area in this clip. Right, move the annoying stone device to get to the portal. And since we're in ground we haven't been in before, may as well slow the footage down again. After all, we're no longer at risk of going over the half-hour mark for this clip, as far as I can tell. I don't suppose it's worth asking just what breached his armor in so many places, is it? Somehow the autopsy scans in this game just don't feel as interesting to me as in the previous game, though maybe that has more to do with my general opinion of this game compared to the first Metroid Prime than the writers not putting enough detail into the autopsies for the dead Luminoth we keep finding. Anyway, that missile expansion certainly wasn't hard to get, though grabbing it seems to have woken up the Ing in this room. Not that I feel all that worried about that. It is just downright sad that the Ing feel less menacing than the pirates when they touch on so many tropes that should make them feel like an especially scary force to fight against. This game has not done anywhere near enough with its supposed main villains of this particular installment. They are just completely forgettable and discardable compared to all the other enemies we've come across in this franchise, and frankly, that's the worst thing that could have happened to them, even if this is the only game they're ever gonna show up in. This is a damn long game, and if the Ing don't have enough going for them to really have any actual impact, then what does the player really have to look forward to as we go across the planet and explicitly do everything we can to defeat them? Just buzz off, you floating bastard. You weren't a threat the first time we ran into one of you, and you aren't a threat now either. You're just something to help pass the time as I wait inside of a healing field for the effects of the air you breathe to fade away before we make another push through the toxic atmosphere of Dark Aether. And once we gain the suit that completely protects us from Dark Aether, one of the bare few interesting defining things about Metroid Prime 2 is going to be gone for us. Sure, it's a shallow little gimmick, but it's still something that helps give this game a bit more personality and sets it apart from the rest of the franchise. Right, is there anything in this room other than those tormenting and the oversized eggs, or am I just wasting more of my own time getting in here? It's not like I could have known this room was going to be a dead end before I got in here, after all, or that there wouldn't be anything to grab. Right, another of those floating bastards just showed up here, and there doesn't seem to be anything worth a damn to be worth fighting them for. I can officially say I probably shouldn't have bothered staying in here for this long, but again, it's not like I could have known it was a dead end until I got in the room and checked. Guess it's back to light aether and finding a way to the next major area, which will probably involve quite a lot more fast-forwarding. Ah, well, at least the more fast-forwarding I do, the fewer clips I have to make in order to finish this game. Doesn't matter if there's multiple floors or not, the Metroid Prime maps just do not do it for me, especially since the rather annoying three-dimensional maps don't actually tell us all that much anyway. Right, so we need to go back to where the Federation got absolutely swarmed by bugs and ended up becoming zombies in order to reach the door to the next major area. And of course, there's no great way to get over there, since some of the gates are permanently locked. We have no means to destroy them, and the map doesn't tell us where those gates are, and if we can get around them. Have I mentioned that this game seems to do quite the extensive job of slowing things down for us? Prime 1 was both smaller, and did quite the job of giving you plenty of elevators from one region to another, keeping an outright web of connections to make things feel all the more interesting, even if you were running across some of the same ground over and over again. Whereas this game seems to want to split things up as if this was Legend of Zelda dungeons here, giving us a more explicit hub region that connects to the rest. Now, I'm pretty sure the reason that Legend of Zelda and games inspired by it can get away with that is due to the fact that you have little to no excuse to return to a previous dungeon. Though maybe that's a bit bold of me to say, when I haven't done any Zelda games on this channel at this point. As a side note, I was kind of hoping that turning on the Dark Visor would let us see whatever key the guys in the cadres had with them. I suppose I was definitely asking too much in a game that wants us to slow down every step of the way and give zero sense of urgency or menace as we're trying to save an entire world. We only had a sense of fear around here before we got the big bit of exposition from you, Moss, near the beginning. Right, doesn't look like we can interact with that just yet either. Or did we interact with it back when we were dealing with the first temple? I don't remember. Right, guess it makes more sense to save right now than to keep stumbling around and hoping to find something new.